Welcome to the CRE Report. I'm your host, Chris Berg. We continue to hear about how AI is dominating so many different areas of industry. So we're going to talk about how AI is continuing to penetrate commercial real estate on today's podcast, and more specifically, self-storage. Very special guest joining us today. He's the founder and CEO of Proprise. Love their tagline, the unfair advantage in self-storage. Jean-Michael Da. Jean-Michael, it's great to have you with us, man. We're looking forward to this conversation.
Chris, thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. I'm really excited to have this conversation, and looking forward to diving in.
I mean, it's incredible to watch. One of the things that jumped out to me, because you and I obviously spoke a little bit before this, and I just want to start here, is that you talked about, hey, Chris, I've been really surprised because you've got such a great background, which we'll talk about in a minute when it comes to computer science. But you told me how surprised you've been and how many CRE people are starting to utilize AI. Why did that surprise you? And what's some of the use cases that you're seeing so far?
Yeah, there's a couple things here, but I think the overarching theme is that historically commercial real estate is an archaic industry. Things move slow here. The adoption to technology is really lagging behind, and so just the underlying consensus is there's not a lot of technology innovations in commercial real estate, and in some cases that might be true, but I think now in 2025 we're seeing a lot of these institutional firms and even just everyday folks in real estate are starting to see how AI can have a meaningful impact into their businesses and transform the way that they're doing and just thinking about real estate investing. And so most of our clients, some of them even have internal mandates where they're, making sure that everyone has a ChatGPT or another type of large language model on their computer in some fashion so they can start using those every single day. And just to figure out how we could use AI to, improve all aspects of their business. So that's just fascinating to see this adoption to technology, and that from the top down being implemented at these very large companies.
One of the things, just because of your background, which we'll talk about in a minute again, but that I want to share with you that just happened to me yesterday, I want to get your feedback on is, so I uploaded an OM. It was in Houston, Texas, was asking to do some deep dive questions for me around that marketplace within a 3.5 mile radius. And this was with ChatGPT, and it started spitting that information to me in Calabasas, California. So, I mean, one of the things I'm concerned about that I want to get your take on is I think a lot of people just sort of fall prey like, oh, it's AI. It must be giving me great info. But I got to be frank, like I'm not seeing that even when it comes to underwriting. I mean, something as simple as an OM that clearly says Houston on it and it's giving me data on like what's going on there. Like how much should we be trusting the actual information that we're getting from AI?
Yeah. So one of the biggest flaws about these AI, what I'm referring to is large language models. The way that they're built is that they are, it's not perfect. The outputs are not always perfect. And so they fall prey to what we call hallucinations, just outputs that just don't really match what you would expect, a rational human being to output. And so it definitely is a common problem. And as we're seeing just advancements and improvements to these models, we're seeing those hallucinations, those error rates go down over time. And definitely, if you notice, even just this week, OpenAI released 2 amazing models, O3 and O4 Mini, that just have dramatically lower hallucination rates. They're more reasonable. They're the smartest models that are out in the market today. And so using some of these higher end models definitely reduce the risk of missing information. But it's always, these are not perfect models, so there's always going to be flaws. So right now, you kind of have to double check the work that it's outputting and kind of wrangle a little bit to make sure it outputs correctly for you.
I mean, I feel like I'm getting a pretty specific prompt. So how does it hallucinate reading a Houston OM and give me Calabasas information?
That I'm not sure what their internal process are. I'll try to try running it again. Maybe it didn't even read the OM in any way, or if there's significant amounts of information that was sent to it in that OM, maybe it probably couldn't have processed every single data point that was relevant to what you were trying to ask. And because of that, this is called the context window. The context window is maximized. It's not able to fully ingest all the data that's relevant, and it just kind of sees the snapshot of that information, and it kind of starts hallucinating everything else that it doesn't know about because it's not in that window of their frame for that model. So those are common reasons why we see some of these issues with large language models today.
And so it's still really important for people to be out there and critically think, know what's spitting back at you. Don't just trust it blindly, because it's definitely not giving you always the best information. So let's talk about your background. The reason I wanted to have you on here today, and then obviously your product as well and what problem you're solving. But just to give people an idea of your expertise in this arena, like share with us, you went to Carnegie Mellon, computer science. Give us the lowdown.
Yeah, so a little background, like how I even ended up here. My family are, both of them worked at Intel for 20 plus years. It's both of them computer engineers, worked in the Bay Area, and a lot of their interest in money, they started investing in mostly in real estate. And I just grew up along that path. They wanted me to do a PhD. I kind of refused that. There's not enough time in my life to do a PhD, so I kind of paused at the master's. But I started learning computer science at the age of 16, 17. Really loved it, and I went to school. At first, I was at Purdue for undergrad studying computer science, and that's where I learned more about artificial intelligence and AI. And initially, I wanted to create an AI that could trade stocks for me, make me money automatically. This was 2015. Realized that there's PhDs, math wizards, and that are being paid millions of dollars at Citadel and these high frequency trading companies that do that. And as a 18-year-old kid, probably could not compete. But that just introduced me to how AI is used in many aspects of the world, whether that's self-driving or doing auto translating text from English to French or Spanish, and just used all around the world around us. And so I wanted to pursue more. I got very interested in AI and how it could help us in the world. And I decided to go to Carnegie Mellon to get my master's, where I really was focused on how do we learn more about these, teaching more models to do more, insights that are above the human level. And it's really amazing to see the advancements of AI now and how it's just permeating throughout essentially all of the culture across the world, and how it's being used in almost everyone's daily lives today.
It's really fascinating to watch. Not to get too far off track here, but recently I saw a piece from Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, talking about, hey, look, in 6 years, the AI is going to be smarter than all the humans combined, and we don't have even the language to describe what that's going to look like for us in a world. One, do you agree with that timeline, and do you have any language to help describe it?
So I think he's probably on the right track. So, this whole wave of AI started back, when ChatGPT launched, which was November 2022, I believe. And that's not even 3 years ago. And so we're only 3 years into this. So I can't even imagine what, 6 years down the road would look like. And these models are blowing me away every single day. I'm having the most fun just touching these models, interacting with them, using them for my business. And so I'm really excited to see how all these advancements on every single day. There's constant improvements, and I definitely see this rate of growth increasing over time as well. And then in terms of like a language, unfortunately, there's not much I have to answer for that. I think right now it's all around prompt engineering. So essentially, I think as we're going forward, we're trying to realize like how are these models trained, and because of the way that they're trained, there's a certain way to interact with them to get the right information out of them. It can't just be, hey, get me this information. It's more of, think like this type of analyst, and this analyst is 10 years of experience, and that type of framing makes it, essentially put on the hat of an analyst and start analyzing things for you in that realm. Otherwise, it's going to be very broad and narrow. So I think at this time, there's still tons of experimentation on how to properly, talk to these models to get the output that you want. But at the moment, it's not perfect science just yet.
No, far from it, based even just some of the results I got yesterday, but it is definitely a fascinating field. So your family's with, in tech, you're studying computer science, a little bit of real estate. How do you land on self-storage?
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. So, it all started from my interest in real estate as well. So, when I got out of school, I knew that I wanted to start acquiring assets for myself. This was 2023, and sorry, not 2023. This was 2020, and it was a very competitive market at the time. Interest rates were rock bottom. Competitive. Real estate was very competitive at the time, and so what I was doing, I was just building up my own machine learning models that would identify opportunities. So right now, these are single family homes that were going on the market that fit my buy box. and I would start. My goal was to be the first offer on these houses, so then I could be the first to get that property. And as I learned more about real estate investing and the different asset classes out there outside of single family homes, I learned about folks who are investing in parking lots, mobile home parks, self storage, and I didn't know at the time that those were investments you could make. But definitely opened my eyes around, okay, real estate is very expansive. There's a lot of opportunities in any structure out there in the world, and that led me down to just investigating self-storage a bit more. There isn't, you're not cleaning bathrooms, as single family you would have to, and these are resilient. This is a very resilient asset class, and we're just been seeing tons of institutional capital being funneled into self-storage as it's a very strong asset that very rarely goes under. So that led me to just figuring out, how can we make sure that the folks who are in this asset class are well equipped for investing in this market, and led us to further iterating along with customers and clients who are doing the job day in and day out to find and acquire assets for self-storage.
So you're part of Y Combinator. As you are fairly new to like self-storage and real estate investing, you've got this great tech background. Like, what would you say is the problem that you're solving with Proprise? What was the initial one, at least?
Yeah. So initially, when we got into this market, we didn't have much exposure to self-storage at the time. I mean, yes, I had a single family investing background, so I understood a little bit about real estate investing, but we took it on us for, we took essentially a month of talking to every single person that we could get hands on to just learn about their process, and what they do for their daily lives in self-storage. So these are brokers, lenders, acquisition teams, developers, and just understanding what do they do and where is there a significant amounts of pain. And we identified just like one very critical piece for developers in particular, how they were looking for pieces of land or potentially assets to then redevelop or convert into self-storage. And they're just going through so many listings and opportunities that are being sent to them. And they have to do significant amounts of checking to make sure that this piece of property makes sense for their investment thesis, whether the population's increasing or the rental rates where they should be to allow for development, what are the zoning for this piece of land. So there's just a significant amount of checks that they're doing. And we saw that there's a lot of time wasted or is just spent on analyzing opportunities that just resulted in a no from just a quick check. And what we're trying to do is how do we automate that process so they can find more yeses way faster than ever before.
So let's dive into that. Let's do a demo here. If you want to use me as a guinea pig, or if you want to just use some other use cases that you're familiar with, but I'll bring up your screen and just kind of walk us through, I guess, what we're seeing, and then walk us through a use case as a developer. Hey, I've got to go find some land that we want to build on. How does Proprise help me solve that problem and do it with efficiency?
Yeah, happy to show you. So just for some context, Proprise is, we're a data analytics platform that is AI powered. And so right now you see a bunch of dots on the map all across the United States. And these all dots represent some form of property. So if I zoom in, let's say we go to California, we could hover over any one of these purple dots, and you'll see that these are, self-storage opportunities, just existing self-storage out there in the world. We're tracking how many floors it is, when it was built, the address, the net rentable square feet for this property, as well as some of these orange dots, which are these are self-storage projects. So in the pipeline, whether they're planning stages, under constructions, or nearing completion. And we're tracking this all across the United States. So today we have over 55,000 self-storage facilities that we're tracking, along with the rental rates, as well as tens of thousands of pipeline self-storage in the pipeline.
So Jean, you mind if I interrupt you at times? Because I'll kind of be the ombudsman here. Okay, so you said that you're tracking 55,000 self-storage units, the rates, things. Where are you pulling all this data from, and how often are you pulling it?
So for the rates, we're collecting that data every week. It's somewhere between 4 to 7 days. We're collecting the rental rate information to stay up to date, and we're getting that data from their website. So we built AI models that can go and crawl any website and collect that data, fetch that data for us automatically. Of course, like we mentioned, AI is not always perfect, and so we have a team of reviewers, data quality analysts, what we call them, to triple check, triple verify all the rent information, the size of the property, and to just make sure that we have the highest quality of data on the platform today.
Nice.
And so, so we have all this information, but this is great to get a sense of what's self-storage is out there, the outlook. But what we're really focused on is it's just the deal sourcing aspect. How do we find opportunities that make sense to further invest time and money into? And so one of the unique things we started off with Proprise was we call them our hotspots feature. So what we're trying to find micro markets, so little pockets within cities that are extremely opportunistic for self-storage. And if it's okay, I can kind of walk through a demo of how we can do this.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I'm putting on my self-storage developer hat. Let's say I really love the Sun Belt. I want to find opportunities in the Sun Belt region. What I'm going to do is just open up. Oops, let me zoom back out. Accidentally clicked on the map. I'm going to find hotspots up here. And we're going to start building up our buy box, our investment thesis. So typically in self-storage, clients typically work along a 3-mile radii or circle. And so we're saying, hey, in a 3-mile in the Sun Belt, we want population minimum. We want some activity, so maybe 40,000 people in that 3-mile. We want non-negative population growth. So we'll just start off with 0 at the minimum. And then let's say household incomes, we want that to be 50,000. So this information comes from the census. And so that's how we're able to get this demographic information. And then for the rents, we can add multiple different types of rents and layers onto this, but we're tracking the 10 by 10 climate rates, the online, the in-store rates. We can even look at 5 by 5s or even different amenity types as well. In this example, I'm just going to do the 10 by 10 climate. And let's just say I'm looking for rates above 150 for the monthly 10 by 10 climate control rates. And then lastly, supply is an importance. So we can start filtering out for areas that have maybe low supply, and we can include we can just have the existing self-storage, or we could even go down to include all projects that are from the planning stages all the way down to existing as well. In this case, let's say we want to be realistic. Let's just do the solar per capita with actually upcoming construction, and let's say that's under a 9, which is below the roughly around the average of the U.S. average. Now, the last thing I wanted to call out is our housing starts. So we're collecting information on every single housing development project across the United States, whether this is single family or multifamily projects, and we can start filtering for, hey, I want to find areas that if all the projects got completed tomorrow, how much percentage would the population increase by? This is another way to just figure out forecasting growth in a market. So let's say we want 4% population growth based on these development projects, and we can start a search like that. If I zoom back out, now we have these pink areas across the U.S., all across the Sun Belt region that are telling us they fit all these criteria. And if I zoom in, actually I'm going to turn off facilities here. If I zoom in, let's say to Phoenix, we can start to see that there's these aren't normal shapes. These are very unique custom shapes that Proprise is giving you. And essentially what it's trying to say is, hey, in these areas, if I put my my 3-mile pin in this market, it will always fit my parameters that I've set right here. So anywhere in these pink shapes, we'll find exactly markets that fit this. Does all this make sense, Chris?
100%. So then the other thing that's nice too, if I remember correctly from our earlier conversation, is that I think I can somehow maybe circle that area, and then if a listing pops up, it'll automatically email me or walk me through that.
Yeah. So another data point we're collecting on a daily basis is we're collecting listings from all over the internet. And so to date we have over 500,000 commercial real estate listings, from data centers all the way down to multifamily properties and even land. And so we could layer those listings on the map and start to see where that is across the whole United States. So this is great, but there's just a ton of dots, and these are you can kind of be overwhelming to go through every single one of these. And so we have a functionality where we can filter on certain listing types and the size and multiple other factors, and then we can even have automations to email you when new listings that come online that fit your criteria come to you. But what I wanted to show off today was how AI can actually analyze all those listings for us automatically, and then create a report and help us rank all these listings for us in just a few minutes. So I'm going to quickly show that here. So, we have all these listings, and I really only care about listings in my, my pink areas. And because I'm a self-storage developer, I'm looking to 2 to 5 acres of land. I don't care about data centers. I don't care about housing. I'm looking for land in this case. So let's tell AI a little bit about this. And so we'll just have a way to analyze listing. So I click this button, and it's able to just, it just tells me, hey, these are your criteria. And it's asking what kind of listing am I looking for. In this case, I'll just say raw land, 2 to 5 acres for self-storage development. They'll start thinking, understands I'm looking for land in the Sunbelt area, and then it's going to start kicking off what we call our listings agent, and it'll go through all these listings and start analyzing this. So this will take maybe a minute to process, I think, but happy to answer any questions as we're going through.
Yeah. So as it's doing that, is it also, do you have the opportunity to go in and because the big thing we always bump up against, of course, is zoning, right? So does your software and or this agent analyze the zoning as well to confirm that, hey, this thing is zoned for self-storage?
Yes, exactly. So actually, it took faster than I expected. So we can just view this report and we'll see what popped up. So in this case, it went through, I'm trying to do the math here, roughly 40 listings, and it scores them. And so what it's telling us here, it gave us an opinion for all these listings. It tells us the address. If I zoom in a bit, the first thing it calls out is the zoning. This is 2 acre, I think I-1 zoned lot in Florida. And it's great because of its strategic location, high visibility, and zoning. Because it understands, we gave it a satellite image. It knows that it's on a very high throughput, road. And so all the highlights are, it's 2 acre lot, has light industrial zoning, and it's in a prime location. And it gives us some cons, of course. Not everything is perfect. So I talked about a high purchase price and potential development costs in this market. And there's every single one of these listings that are found in our hotspots, it has ranked and categorized them for numerous reasons. Go ahead.
Does it have the ability as well? Is your software reading city and or county documents so it can tell me the FAR, how high I can build, setbacks? Are you guys that far advanced yet, or?
Not yet. It doesn't go that detailed at the moment. But it's something we're always working on. Is just getting more clarity on what can actually be built here in this market. So that's kind of how it is today. But yeah, that's a great question. And
then again, I don't know if your tech is here, but I'm assuming you're going here. Do you also have an idea? I think this one is in what? It says Sunrise, Florida, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Do you have an idea what construction costs are in that particular area? So that way I can start to take that data, and will it even help me underwrite what it looks like to build a Class A self-storage facility on 2 acres in this area?
Yep, excellent question. So this is all on the roadmap right now, or this is, we just launched this yesterday. And so it's, how do we actually get this list of listings? Maybe there's 10, maybe there's 100 of those. Let's rank them based on potential, viability for self-storage development. And then of course, the next things we have to add on are development costs, deeper zoning information, and that would definitely re-rank all this on this list and just get a more higher clarity on what actually makes sense for a real self-storage development. But yes, everything's not, like you're mentioning, is on the roadmap and does not exist just yet.
Wow, it's incredible. How accurate are you finding that your zoning is data, the zoning data?
It's quite accurate. If I go on Proprise and investigate this listing, we're going to be able to pull the zoning code as well as go to the actual document themselves and just cross check what we're saying here with the raw material that the local jurisdiction has put out. But we've seen significant accuracy in what we're proposing today. Just while I'm here, the last thing I wanted to show off was this admitted tab. So we've matched a lot of them, but also some of these listings have a very low score, and the AI tells us it's not recommended for a few reasons. And so in this case, it calls out there's an existing warehouse and that it's already leased as a daycare center. May not be optimal to purchase this asset and clear the tenants to do self-storage, and does all this for us automatically. So we can prioritize the opportunities that actually make sense for me. And we're always iterating on this. I think there's many things we could add as inputs to help the AI understand our investment strategies. This will we're going to keep refining and iterating this over time.
It's really incredible, Jean Michael. I mean, very, very well done. Anything else you want to share as far as what you're doing currently, or what else is available within the software?
I think that's essentially it. I guess one more thing I wanted to call out was our heat maps feature. That is a great way just to understand markets deeper. So let me pull that up quickly. Go back to this page. Let me remove all the listings. So we've gone ahead and did our hotspots, but we also can overlay heat maps onto these pages. So if we overlay the population heat map, we can start to see high populations in Glendale and Phoenix area, and we're seeing less population outside in red. But I think what's actually interesting is if I go down a bit, we call them our composite heat maps, and so we can start adding on interesting, I would say, data points to then create our own custom heat map that our users use. So maybe in this case, some of our users think a population is important, but maybe not as important as others. So we'll add in square foot per capita. So supply is a very critical importance for them. And then also, like say, rents for 10 by 10 is important, but maybe not as important as square feet per capita. And so we can apply that. And now visually on a map, we can start to see where there's holes and like even how that relates to our hotspots. And we can start to see, okay, actually these hot maps make sense for me based on what I value as an investor for the criteria that I'm looking for. So that's a very powerful feature that a lot of our clients really, really enjoy using.
Yeah. So walk me through the colors here, because what the yellow equates to what, and then like the pinkish equates to what? So what am I looking at here?
Yeah. So red means it's a low score. So we created our custom heat maps, and so we're getting lower scores. And then green areas and dark green areas are high scores for our heat map. So we want to be looking for areas that are in the high green areas. It doesn't look like there's any in Phoenix, but we're seeing some lighter green areas in our hotspots above here in the Paradise Valley. We can start to see some areas where it may not be as great for self-storage developments like Peoria and things like that.
Are there ways as well, since you're scraping every 4 to 7 days, where I can look at, okay, these are areas that I like, maybe the rates aren't quite there yet, but hey, can I get alerts that, hey, rates have gone up 10%, 15%, so I can circle back to that particular area in the future and be like, okay, now maybe this underwrites?
Yeah, that's a great idea. So right now we have a section in the app that goes deeper into like the rate trends over time. One thing we're looking to add soon, as we're getting into significant AI features, is a way to track markets and say, hey, I really like Glendale, for example, but I just want to start tracking it and have AI send me reports whenever there's an interesting thing that pops up. So maybe, okay, we've noticed 5x5 are significantly close to a 10 by 10 rate. That might be helpful to know. Or 5x5s have been increasing 5% month over month, or 10% month over month, and just get me those insights, so I'm not constantly digging through these markets every day to analyze that. So we're working on ways to just start tracking and have essentially AI do that work for us, and pull those insights that you may have missed otherwise.
One of the things I enjoy about what you're doing, Jean Michael, is you seem to be very responsive. Like, I can come to you and go, hey, I've got this problem. Can you guys code this? And I'm presuming you're going to do everything you can to help solve that problem for your clients. So a couple of things. One, if you can share with us some powerful anecdotes of current clients that are using this. I know you've got, how do I want to say it without disclosing, some very well-known clients, maybe is a good way to say it.
Yeah.
So any anecdotes that you can share, and if you can disclose who these clients are, that would be great. And then also, what are you hearing? Like, what's a common theme, common pattern you're hearing from developers? You're like, man, I need you to solve this problem for us.
Yeah, great. And is it okay if I stop sharing here?
100%, man. I can help you with that.
Yeah, let me go.
Is that good?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, thanks, Chris. So in terms of like the clients, so we're working with numerous, I would say, top 100 top 100 operators in the self-storage industry. And so most of our clients are, in those top 100s. Some of them are, recognizable publicly traded REITs. And so we're helping them essentially identify these micro markets, these hotspots that they really want to dive deeper into, as well as being able to like look at listings and look at and analyze properties deeper in rich detail to come to conclusions and make better strategic decisions across the board. There's just so many, since we're operating nationally, there's just so many little holes they have to cover, and it's very impossible for even a large team to cover every single thing. And AI definitely makes that process much more palatable and easier to do. And so a common thing that we're seeing, some quotes that we're able to see is working with clients like Olympus Ventures out in Minnesota, and they've seen that their letters of intent have increased. I believe they said it was in 2024 they did 6 letters of intent, and in this year 2025 they're already at just the first quarter they're at 4, and they attribute a lot of that because of what we're doing at Proprise. They're able to set alerts for listings, identify markets that they would have never found before, and so they actually are now covering 2 times more markets than they ever did before Proprise, and that's getting them more deal flow, being able to access more opportunities that they didn't have the bandwidth to before. Additionally, we had Ghost Storage use it for within a couple of weeks of using Proprise, identify a plot of land that was actually off market that was on the East Coast that they overlooked at the time, and then they got a broker to call through a list of zoned parcels and got in contact with the owner and got that deal done within a couple of weeks of Proprise. That saved them 75% of deal sourcing time. And so it's just a significant improvements on the current processes, and we're going to keep pushing and see if we can get that 75% down to 0, get that down to 100%. But so always iterating and talking with all of our clients to just fine tune these AI models and help start doing actual work and get them closer to a yes for properties that it'd be very hard to find otherwise.
Thank you for bringing that up. I did want to talk about the off-market piece. This has been great, by the way. Thank you, Jean-Michael. So, for example, some of those pink areas that were the hot spots, if there's no listings there, I think the beauty as well is at least now it gives me some very specific areas I can start diving into and going to call landowners and go, hey, are you open to selling and get some off-market deals done? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't imagine a world without this. You would have to be digging through a bunch of areas, finding if the rents are where there should be, and we'll same with the supply, and then start just pick and look around for every parcel in the area, and then match those to the proper zoning. And so that just must take a significant amount of time and almost impossible actually to do this regularly. And we've seen a lot of our clients not really interested in doing a task like that before Proprise, but now that we do, we can give them an easy curated list of, hey, here are the pieces of property that are off the market today. Here's the owner's information, and here's it's between 2 to 5 acres and is zoned correctly. Definitely go and pursue those leads, and it's actually getting them better action based on rather than going on the market, which there might be a little bit more competition there.
So last time we spoke, and maybe this has changed, but you said, yeah, Chris, I can definitely show you the hot spots. And then obviously that'll give you the areas that you want to focus maybe on some off-market deals. And then you will show me if it's zoned for self-storage or not. The one thing you didn't have is you didn't have the actual owner's contact info, correct? Do you have that now? Or?
So we know the entity that owns it. We don't have the actual contact information yet. Brokers are remarkable for this, and they can get that done. They're private investigators almost. But at this moment, contact information is not yet available on Proprise.
But I still can say, okay, this is off market, it's zoned correctly, and I can start digging and scraping and trying to find that contact and then do what I need to do to get it done. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Wow. Fantastic. All right, my friend, I thought this was going to go like 20 minutes. We're well over that. So I'd love to have you back just to continue to talk about what you're doing and obviously the advancements in prop tech. I want to wrap up with 2 things. One, where do you see, let's just go out 12 to 24 months. If you can go 36, great. I mean, where do you see Proprise in 12 to 36 months, knowing how fast this tech is changing and moving?
Yeah, look, I mean, we're really interested in self-storage. I think it's a great market, and we definitely learned a lot in this industry, and we want to continue serving developers. One thing that we're definitely we want to start serving as well is just the brokers and acquisitions teams, which we may have neglected over the past year of being in existence. And so helping them understanding their pain points and how can they start using AI in their workflows to automate a lot of the tasks or just generate insights that would be very hard to do otherwise. So developers got a lot of love, but we want to see, can we get the whole ecosystem involved as well? And then naturally, what we're doing doesn't just apply to self-storage. We see this going across, industrial, retail, multifamily as well. And so we have big visions for the future to expand all across commercial real estate and help everyone in the investments world just find opportunities that they would have otherwise missed.
All right, my friend, I want to give you the last word. Anything else you want to add or share that I haven't asked you? Then most importantly, if people want to reach out, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Jean-Michael DA, very unique name. But also, if you're interested in learning more about Proprise, please visit us at proprise.ai. Happy to have conversations with anyone that's interested, even if you're not a self-storage operator. I like talking to folks. This is how I learn, and anything that we learn, we try to implement into the product to make it better.
And I've got your email here. Are you okay if I put that up on the screen for people? And
yeah, please do.
So if you want to email them too, it's just jmd@proprise.io. Again, jmd@proprise.io. Check out their site. Obviously, great stuff. It's fun to see where prop tech is heading, and I really think you're doing a great job kind of leading that charge, Jean-Michael. So I appreciate the time, and we look forward to having you back.
Thanks so much, Chris. It was a blast talking to you, and always will be.
Bro, that was fantastic. All right, this is the CRE Report. I'm your host, Chris Berg. Thank you for joining us. Please share this pod with